I want to just double check. I see Honorable Bateman is on here. Can you hear me, Honorable Bateman?
Yes, morning, Chair.
Morning. I want to make sure that we are correct. So let me just, as we go through it, I see Honorable Kamet, are you alive and well? I think, honorable members, I'm just going to allow for 2 minutes, and then we will resume this meeting officially. We have we have a very substantive agenda, and I can appreciate that this is taking members out of their respective constituency period. So let me just, I see Honorable Mkhonto has joined us. Someone, Honorable Mkhonto, how is the people of Mpumalanga?
Morning, Chair. Siyaphila eMpumalanga. It is raining. So isivuno sizoba right this year.
But we have been all issued weather warnings, whether you are in Gauteng or KZN. So I hope honorable members are safe in this regard. I do believe the meeting is now correct. We have enough members to be able to proceed with the business of the day. And so welcome, honorable members and everybody on the platform. This particular meeting is a special meeting convened in order to be able to consider and adopt 2 bills that have been tabled before Parliament. And so in the light of that, I will not take up too much time. This is the draft agenda that is before us. Effectively today, we'll be looking at the consideration of the 2025 midterm MTBPS report. We'll then take a motion of desirability to adopt the adjustment appropriation bill, and then the consideration and the adoption of the special appropriations bill. Those are the only items that are on this agenda. They are effectively the adoption of 3, the report on the MTBPS, and then the respective bills that have been taken forward. So, honorable members, may I just request, is there a member who would like to move for the adoption of the agenda?
Chair, it's Honorable Talenga Mazibugo here, and good morning to yourself and members. I would like to move for the adoption of the agenda as tabled.
Thank you, Honorable Talenga Mazibugo, and once again, congratulations on the birth of your grandchild. And I'm sure you have pressing matters that are before you. So, but thank you for moving. And I see Honorable Bateman, your hand is.
Yes, thanks, Chair, and good morning to my colleagues. And I do second the adoption of this agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In the light of that, honorable members, may I then, I want to sensitize members. Obviously, still in the early hours of 2 nights ago, Mashile had sent me a notice to say family had been in an accident. And so really, I thought as a committee, we take strength and courage from and encourage him and his family. By last account, everyone seems to be okay, but we are keeping close tabs to find out how that situation is unfolding. And so my thoughts are with his family at this particular time in this very particular December period. Mashila, are you on the platform? Let me just check.
Yes, good morning, Chair, and everyone on the platform. I am here, and thanks for the words and the support that you've extended to me on behalf of the committee. I can safely report that everybody is doing well. We have had the examination, the preliminary examination and a follow-up. Everyone is fine, so we'll just observe whoever would be having some complications with time. But at the moment, I'm in Cape Town and everybody is fine. Thank you, Chair.
No, I wish you strength and courage. Thank you, Mashile, and thank you. Our prayers are with you. Let me open this particular meeting officially then, and we proceed. Honorable members, the reports that are before us speak to the MTBPS, and I'm almost certain, as members would know, that we've had extensive deliberations on many of the reports. In essence, the reports that are before us also, we may have a number of points that we'd like to raise. They've been circulated 3 days ago, and Sfiso Makakula, Mr. Makakula, has been working tirelessly over the weekend and public holidays. I've been engaging him to make sure the reports were circulated to members on time. So I want to especially express my gratitude to him for the extraordinary work he's put on this matter. So in that light, let me just check. Are there any apologies for today? Denver, are there any apologies respective for today?
Good morning, Chairperson. We've received no apologies from any members. The only apologies came from Mr. Majosi, the Middle Liaison Officer, who's not available today, as well as Ms. Klaashoff, who's actually just entering now. She says she'll join a bit later. That's all from my side, Chairperson.
So in essence, all members of the committee are here today. So in the light of that, let us then begin. May I suggest, Honorable Member, that we put forward the report on the MTBPS, and then we can begin to work from there. I would imagine before we adopt this, there will be a need, because this is on the medium-term budget policy statement, and then we'll then flight the motion of desirability on the adjustment appropriation bill, with a draft copy of the adjustment appropriation, and then the special appropriation bill. Honorable members, with this having circulated to members, I will then unpack it page by page, as we usually do. If members have got challenges with aspects of the report, if you can, we are on a virtual platform, so it does take a lot of time and effort to try and make sure everybody's aligned. Honorable Wakelin, I recognize your hand. You want to raise a point, yes?
Good morning, Chair. Am I audible and visual?
You are both those things, assuming you are not at the beach. I can see you are not there.
Chair, yes, just a quick question. I see that there are some comments made in the MPTD statement, the medium-term budget policy statement, that might be related to the appropriation. Let me use an, just to give one example, for instance, we are focused very hard on the matter of project management, efficient project management. You'll
Yes.
find it's in the one report, but it's not in other reports. So I don't know if we're going to, so there's some generalities I think that we could possibly cover both sides. Would you like me to stop here those points and then propose them, or would you like to just give me your own?
If you can, and then we can go through it. Otherwise, we will end up dealing with multiple reports at the same time, Honorable Wakelin, if that's okay.
Okay.
Is that
Fine, perfect.
100%? So let us, as we proceed, Honorable, can we go through it page by page, starting with page 1? Are there any concerns from any member? Page 2. Can we go through page 3? Page 4. Just for safety of procedure, honorable members, if I can ask, if you've got a point to raise and I don't pick it up, please don't mind to unmute and then just bring it to my attention, because as you know, this platform of Zoom, you need to have toggle between two different things. So Honorable Mkhonto. Honorable Mkhonto, you are recognized? Or was that a yes? Or you withdraw? I don't know.
No, I don't withdraw, Chair.
Okay.
I instead of unmuting myself, I switch on the video. Chair, I can't get the page on this policy document, but Chair, I wanted to check with you and other members of the committee that as I've been reading all these documents, the words forecasted, expected, and so forth are being used in terms of either the decrease or the increase of a certain budget. But then when it comes to debt, it is written debt will stabilize. So I'm just checking, Chair Uguti, as this committee, is it correct for us to make people believe that it will definitely stabilize, or a word such as the ones that I've referred to has to be used?
Yes, so is your question, Honorable Mkonto, whether the committee must make the statement debt is projected to peak at 70, whatever the percentage is, I think it's on there, rather than saying that it will peak at 77?
Yes.
I get your point. We depart. Is there any member who would like to comment on that point? I mean, if it is a matter of a word suggesting projection, which I take the point, because this forecast of debt peak has been made a number of times and has to be adjusted pending on multiple variables, notwithstanding GDP growth and all other factors. So I think, as a percentage of GDP, that is. So I think, given that statement, I'm willing to hear what other members would like to say. Mr. Makakula, if you can comment on that issue.
Honorable Chairperson, thank you very much, and good morning to honorable members. I mean, some of the things are taken as they are on the MTBPS. It's not about how do we want to write them, because they are in the red book from National Treasury. So it's not a matter of whether we can dispute it now or not. It's a factual thing that is on that book. There is nothing we can, I think, do about it, because we take it as it is. If you look at most of the points which are in this report, they relate to exactly what is in that book. So
in the red book, I hear that, Fiso, but this is a report on the red book. If it's not, it is not itself the red book. But I do hear the point that you made. I had considered that point to say, of course, it's like figures that are being put on the report itself are really directly from the red book, so there can be no debate about that. But I recognize Honorable Talega Mazibuko, and then I'll revert back to you, Mr. Makakula, if you give me a second.
okay.
Honorable Talega
No,
Mazibuko.
Chair. Yes, Chairperson. No, I must lower my hand. Mr. Makakula has covered me. That we can't change what the red book what has been stipulated on the red book by National Treasury. Ours is to do oversight in making sure that that projection or the department is working towards that projection. So there are things like you say that we cannot change, but we have to find a way of making sure that they reach the projection that they have put for the citizens. Thank you.
I hear that, Mr. Makakula. Is there any other point you'd like to make?
No,
Chair,
Chairperson, I'm covered.
Wait, hold on. Honorable Mkonto, yes?
Chair, my understanding is that this is our report, is the report of this committee, and we have no powers on these projections that are here. So I specifically the debt service costs and even the borrowing itself, we don't have powers as this committee. But if in the red book is written that it will, then is it correct for us to just follow? Because this is the report of this committee. It's not the red book, unless we are saying we do have powers to make sure during implementation that these things do happen. That is my understanding. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Makakula. Is there anything you'd like to respond? And then I'd like to rule on this matter so we can move.
Yes, Chairperson, Honorable Mkondo, it's correct. It is our report, but as Honorable Kalega Masbuga has already said, ours is that maybe probably we can emphasize on ensuring that we on our oversight role using the parliamentary mechanisms to ensure that these things which are said there, they are achieved and hold the minister accountable. Like as you know, honorable members, when the Minister of Finance presented this thing through the 4 committees of the finance committees of Parliament, those are the times where probably this type of debates to say, do we agree with you or we don't disagree? How do we reflect on this? But through the available parliamentary oversight mechanisms, we can ensure that we hold National Treasury accountable to this. We can probably, on the quarterly basis, as we usually do, invite them to brief us on these things, whether it's achievable or not, so that before we even reach the next MTBPS, we know that we are failing or are we meeting the targets that were set in this MTBPS. That will be my submission, Honorable Chair.
So my ruling in this matter is that there are a couple of things. When you read the flow of most of the reports, are really a departure from what sits within National Treasury's own submission in terms of their own statement. And in that context, there are a couple of things that become quite clear. The first is the committee is not empowered by law, neither is Parliament, to be able to grant permission as to what debt the state can accrue or not accrue. This is the bit that is contentious because effectively government can borrow. It doesn't need parliamentary approval on that regard. Otherwise, you'll end up in a space where Parliament really has a different job to what it is now. It becomes player, not always referee. And at the same time as that, so we need to accept the point that is made by National Treasury and cite it that that's what National Treasury states it as. It's also important that when you read the second part of the report, it states various entities, PBO, COSATU, FFC, who all might have a view on where debt will stabilize. So it then becomes important for them to be able to say debt will or will not or is projected at in those wording as their submission. Where the committee holds its own commentary is when it arrives at the points about findings and recommendations, which are right towards the end. And in that instance, at findings and recommendations, Honorable Mkondo, I take your perspective that it is National Treasury's projection that debt to GDP will peak at X. Yet the committee might hold a different view on that regard. And so I would much rather deal with it in those 3 segmented manners, because where the voice of the committee comes in is that it must be able to express itself towards the end on this question of debt relative to voice itself in the beginning as to what National Treasury have and have not said. In the same way as we don't adjust the figures and suggest whether we only make the projection at the end. So may I make a suggestion where the comment sits towards the end, because that's where the committee does its findings and recommendations. That's where that input will come through. Is that agreeable to all members? We can that move on.
Accepted, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mkondo. We can then proceed then to the next page, and please do note that point as we proceed. Can we get to page 5, please? Page 6. Page 8. Page 9. Page 10. page 11. Page 12. Page 13. Page 14. Page 15. Page 16. Page 17. Page 18. Page 19. Page 20. It's also important for members to note I'm only drinking coffee. Just because it's December doesn't mean we must start drinking early. I just thought I'd clarify the point up front. Page 21. Page 22. Page 23. Page 24. $25. $26. We then move to page 27. Page 28.
Chair.
Yes, Honorable Wakeling.
Right, thanks, Chair. On bullet point 11.3,
Yes.
the latter part of the paragraph refers to the committee would like to argue on government to invest more on job creation initiatives over the 25 MTF to ensure that more South Africans get jobs and reduce the level of poverty and inequality. Chair, at one stage we had a conversation around the feedback that we require on the job seekers grant to be presented.
Yes.
I think it would make sense that if we possibly can put in there something around the job seekers grant feedback on where they are with that development, because the minister announced on it in his original budget speech, and we're like 3/4 of the year and we still don't have any understanding what's going on there. And that was one of the requirements we requested from him. If we can put it in there somewhere.
How would you phrase that? And might I highlight, Honorable Wakeling, if you will recall, I think at a stage we had raised the point that said that we had actually received a feedback that came from the presidential employment, the yes initiative and their number. But I do take your point to say that job creation initiatives need to be tabled and reported upon. So if you could begin to think through how we could adjust that sentence to include, perhaps maybe the subsequent point would be to include a section about how job creating initiatives and update undertaken by the state are given full report to the committee. Honorable
Okay, so we will do this under the recommendation then. That's what you're saying.
Okay, we'll put it there. Yeah, but just hold it, Honorable Bateman. Honorable Wakelin, let me take Honorable Bateman and I'll revert. Yeah.
Thanks, Chair. So my point also relates to 11.3, but it's slightly different. So I think once you're happy with the revised wording from my colleague's point, then I can raise it, or do you want me to proceed?
So let me, okay, so Honorable Bateman, just hold on. Let me just finish with Honorable Wakelin. Honorable Wakelin, would it be a fair enough point to make a recommendation that job creating initiatives that are undertaken by the state must be tabled on a report to the committee? Is that what you are asking for us to do, to include?
Yes, particularly the job seekers grant program and what to develop, because it's a new program they wanted to develop, and we want to see where they are with the status of that program. And we can broaden the line, but in particular, I would like to ask the job seekers grant development of that plan. But we can do it on a recommendation. That's fine.
Please, so, Mr. Makakula.
Yes, Chairperson, I hear the point from Honorable Wakelin, but I don't know. I don't know what grant really is that. I haven't heard of job seekers grant because it's neither mentioned in the MTBPS. Maybe it's something that I'm not aware of. So it will be very difficult to make a recommendation on. Maybe he is specifically talking to a specific grant. Let's get into that, because if there is a specific grant, then we can mention. But I don't know that, because on all the grants that are there is none that say it's a job seekers grant. So if we can get clarity on that, Honorable Wakelin, I'm sorry, and then we can be able then to make a proper recommendation.
Maybe if I can quickly explain, Chair.
Please do, Honorable Wakelin.
Yeah, so part of the original speech that the Minister presented is that he's considered an approach to move some of the social grant into a job seekers program and job seekers grant, and that National Treasury would have developed such a program within the 25-26 year, and coming back to the Parliament with the new adjustments to be done based on youth and unemployment, because that was a very specific approach that we requested him to do. And he came back in a speech and saying that the problem is that we don't see, in exactly to Mr. Makagula's point, it's exactly that. It's not part of the program yet because it's in development stage. So I would like to know a status report on where they are and if they've canned it or not, and if they have canned it, what the reasons are there for that. So I just really need to know the status of the development of that grant.
So
then.
Yes,
sorry, Honorable Chair. Thank you very much. Can I request that, Honorable Wakelin, maybe we write a separate letter to National Treasury requesting like an update on the development into that space, because as we speak to this report, we are just reporting on the MTBPS, and even if the minister made something on the sideline about the development of such, but it doesn't feature in any of the documents that we have. So my request will be, Honorable Wakelin, if it's acceptable, through the Honorable Chairperson's office, we write a letter to National Treasury requesting an update on that matter rather than putting it in the report. I don't know if that will be acceptable.
Maybe I mean, both and, right? 11.3 really speaks to job creating initiatives. And the development of the SRD, I'm not sure if it's from the SRD to the job seekers grant. So, Honorable Wakelin, I think we need to get clarity on that, because the conversation about the job seekers grant has been an ongoing one, but there hasn't been a specific timeline. to it in as far as when it'll be implemented, etc., and whether there's an appropriation towards it at this point in time. The only conversation we are having is on the SRD. But given that point, the point might be bolstered better in 11.3 by highlighting a report on job creating initiatives undertaken may be important for the committee. So whatever we find the phraseology on 11.3 as a point might be helpful to capture, I think, what you are alluding to, because the job seekers grant is but one grant. There are many other processes that the state has undertaken in order to create work. Honorable Wakeling?
Chair, it's fine. We leave 11.3 on condition if you can assist me that we, as Mr. Makagula suggested, as it is not part of the current adjustment and obviously possibly only from the 26th year that we'll see some adjustments done there or for the new budget. If we can just at least on record state, send a letter from your office to confirm what the status is of that specific program. And I get your point. I get your point on that the job creation initiatives is a broad term, and this is but one part. But if we can maybe ask just in writing for a specific feedback from your office.
Yeah, happy to do that. Funeka, can you note that? I think Funeka is on this call. We can make sure we furnish that letter. I see Dr. Pakis from National Treasury is on the call also, so we'll be able to respond in this regard. Honorable Bateman, let me hear from you. Let me recognize you now.
Thanks very much, Chair. Also on 11.3, I have a concern, and I'll tell you what I'd like to see in that, and then I'll explain it afterwards, that we also add the words "and to implement reforms which accelerate job creation." And the reason why I say that is our recommendation, we're thinking, okay, we have a problem with unemployment, therefore job creation initiatives. But the state is not going to be able to create the jobs that we need as an economy. And the only way we're going to create the jobs that we need is through economic growth, investment, and dealing with the things that are inhibiting that. And some of those are within the control of National Treasury. Some of them are within the control of other departments, like the Department of Trade and Industry, the Department of Labor. There are major reforms that are needed there to enable to accelerate economic growth, investment, economic growth, and job creation. As a committee, I think we mustn't get stuck into this loop of thinking we have an unemployment problem, therefore we need to create state employment programs. I'm not saying they don't have any role, but we mustn't lose sight of our main goal here, which has got to be to get the economy growing. So hence, I would suggest we add the words "and to implement reforms which accelerate job creation." It's interesting. I've been studying the later years of when Trevor Manuel was the finance minister, and over the period of time, we created something like 2 million jobs. We were growing at 5% a year for a number of years. He had to make some tough structural decisions early on, but those really resulted in an amazing acceleration in the economy. I mean, there are also international factors at play. So I'm not saying it's all just because of the reforms, but he did enable us to reposition ourselves as an economy to be able to boost private investment from 15% of GDP up to about 22%. And so this is really what the way we need to be thinking, not okay, we need to spend more money on youth employment programs. That's going to solve our problem. It's not going to solve a problem. At the best, that's going to be a band-aid akin to, one better than a social grant, but not really a long-term sustainable way of creating employment for the millions of South Africans who need employment. The only sustainable way to do it is going to be through the reforms that really get our economy growing and make it and reward people who create work for other people rather than making it I mean, one entrepreneur I spoke to recently said he just doesn't want to employ people because the state just makes it so onerous, and yet those are yet we need to have businesses thinking, how can I employ more people? At the moment, they're thinking, how can I avoid employment? I mean, that's the major shift that has to happen. Thanks.
No, I hear that, Honorable Bateman, and I think my point earlier, and I recognize Honorable Gallagher Mazibuko, wasn't to say the state is the sole employer. I was responding to the grant conversation. I think the conversation about reform must also be tied to the question of structural reforms, which the state is trying to put on the table for the purpose of job creating initiatives. Because to your point, making sure that there's an effective port system is not in and of itself the state employing people, but it is in and of itself an opportunity for an export market to grow in order to create jobs. So whilst I think those structural reforms are on the table as expressed in Operation Vulindlela, there's a conversation about accelerating those. I think the point here is really trying to make the point you are making maybe less succinctly, is to say we can't grant our way to wealth. We have to grow our way to wealth and therefore create work, if you follow the argument. Let me, Cindy August, at least the device is, can you mute your device? Cindy? Denver. Sure. Honorable Gallagher Mazibuko, I recognize you.
Yeah, we'll attend to it. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm just going to be very brief because I'm partly covered, especially by Honorable Bateman. I agree with what you are saying together with Honorable Bateman, that the state cannot be the sole employer, but the state has to be an enabler of employment. And one would really like to see the emphasis on the partnership with the private sector there. I think the encouragement and enhancement of the Triple P should also find expression on what we are suggesting, as part of the reforms as well. But I think we have done away with the language of the partnership, the Triple P, private-public partnership. I think we need to encourage that. Thank you, Chair.
So perhaps, Mr. Makakula, if it's okay to you, I take the point that Honorable Bateman in phraseology has put on, and so perhaps maybe the point to supplement 11.3 would be to simply add that accelerate structural reforms and effectively those reforms set up for job creating initiatives. I think something to that effect. I feel like I'm sounding clumsy and not completing the sentence, but is to suggest in essence that to ensure more South Africans get jobs and reduce levels of inequality, accelerate structural reforms in order for growth that leads to enhanced job creation. Would that be a fair way of putting
Denver,
it?
can you type, please?
It's 11.3. Honorable Bateman, would that maybe put it well? Accelerate structural reforms that enhance GDP growth in order for job creation to occur? Would that maybe capture some of what you're saying?
That's exactly right. Just to shift the emphasis so we know where the jobs are going to come from.
Sorry, Chairperson, can you just repeat the sentence again? Just missed that.
Let's accelerate structural reforms. Accelerate those. And there are a lot, I mean, OV2, there's those 6 chapters that sit on there. For job.
Okay.
Yes, Honorable Wakely.
Can I, are you busy? Okay, just after job creation initiative and you can put in that sentence there over the 25 MTBPS period.
Okay, so accelerate. So the sentence reads: accelerate structural reforms. Or did you say?
Can I help you, Chairperson? What Honorable Watley is saying? Yes. Just put the sentence there, Mr. Denver, please. Yes, you started there, and accelerate structural reforms.
For GDP growth, because growth is the question on the table.
Is that fine, Honorable Chairperson?
Structural reforms for
But you don't even have to put it, it has to be for structural reforms. I mean, obviously for the purpose of GDP growth, right? And I'm not sure if the purpose, I'm not sure if the sentence reads better. Correct. I think the point has the right emphasis in that regard. Is that fair? I mean, Mr. Magakula, once this report is done, will you be able to work on cleaning up the language so that it reads coherently?
That's fine, Chairperson.
Is that all right?
Always, I'll do that.
Honorable Mkonto, your people from Mpumalanga, you can align there while you are there and clean out.
I will do that, Chair. Thank you.
Uyomlandela lo mhlonishwa waseMpumalanga ngoba ngiyamsaba mayelapha ekhaya isikhathi eside engathi uzoba nenkinga kancane. But let's proceed, honorable members. If we get, now we are on page Denver, we are 25 or 28. Can we get to page 29?
Can I speak, Chair?
Yes, Honorable Wakeling.
Okay, Chair, on page 29, under 11.7, I just want some clarity on two matters here. The one is further down on the last paragraph, it talks about an audit must be done, especially in municipalities, to ensure infrastructure is maintained. I want clarity. What is meant? What do we do? What do we mean by that? Because in general, an asset is done. Audit is done every year as part of the contribution to the AG's report in any event. So I want to get a sense. What are we trying to emphasize here, as it's already part of the program? And then I found it quite interesting. Right in the beginning, it took government sudden realization.
Yes.
So
yes.
I won't interfere with it. I just thought it was quite funny. But just to have a sense, what are we trying to explain here? And then my further comment on the matter. There are two parts here. The one is talks to the development of new infrastructure. On the next report that we're talking about, we do allude to the matter of effective and efficient project management. And I think it's important here that we should also say that it's all relying on effective and efficient project management, because we see with the rollovers and we see with money not being spent, the direct impact of that is because of effective and efficient project management. And if we can put that somewhere there in that area, and then the last part of that paragraph.
Sorry, Mr. Wakeling. Now you are the Honorable Wakeling. There are a couple of points you have made. Can we just finish the first one as a start, and then we'll work through it? I agree with you. The word sudden can be removed. Welcomes government's realization that it's sudden, latent, before, after. I think in my initial edits I had removed that point or highlighted it, Mr. Makakul. I also found it funny, but let us deal with that. And then I think the point here, if you remember Salga's submission, at least in one of the public hearings, they raised the particular point about if there's a natural disaster, and I'm sure National Treasury will affirm the same while they're on the call, is that often an asset register, even whilst it's done for the Auditor General, it isn't often always accurate, because the municipalities don't always know which building is what. And so as a net effect, you also don't know what the value of those buildings are. And the net consequence of that is that when there's a disaster, you can't forecast budgeting much more effectively. And I can take you through municipality by municipality. Whether they've completed it for AG's reporting or not, I can assure you, as night follows day, they don't always all know where their assets lie and where they don't lie, let alone the appropriate forecasting thereof. I think also in the midst of DJ Wallace's death, it's notable here that when you think about a city like Johannesburg, some of the buildings are not even no longer in the control of the municipality itself. So these, when there's a disaster, it affects the municipality. At the municipality, maybe to step aside from the DJ Warris issue, I can recall when that building set fire in Johannesburg, the municipality was left literally staring at a building, unclear who owned it, unclear. And when they did confirm it was their building, they weren't sure who the leaseholder was, yet the natural disaster proceeded. It wasn't even a natural disaster, that was a human disaster, and that it was fire. So it was in response, in some ways, to a comment made by Salga. But I'd like for National Treasury just to add a point here, because I certainly maintain that that has become a genuine challenge in terms of forecasting for disasters. Is there anyone from National Treasury who can, I don't want to say National Treasury, let me be clear.
So, Honorable Chair.
Yes, Mr. Makapu.
Do you want them to comment on the points of?
I'm talking about just this particular point because I want to seal it, unless you've got additional question before they comment.
No, generally, it's fine. We can make them comment, but generally, I wouldn't want them to comment on the reports at this stage, because they're on the other side. We're writing these reports for them at the end of the day. But you can allow them to comment.
No, I just wanted just a point about asset registry so that we don't capture it incorrectly.
Chair,
Yes,
can I just
yes,
quickly intervene here?
Yes,
That
Honourable.
sentence, the sentence that reads, an audit must be done, especially in municipality, to ensure infrastructure is maintained. That is not related to the second. These are two, unless Mr. Makagula don't agree. But the first one relates to a project, relates to maintenance of current infrastructure projects or maintenance in particular. And the second part relates to disaster strikes. So you are convoluting the two together now. So I'm just trying to get sense. If he refers to an audit here, what is he talking to? Does he talk about the maintenance of this infrastructure, or is it because of the disaster that he's referred to that? I think these are two separate issues altogether.
No, I hear you, but the point we're trying to make is that if you insure your house, Honorable Wakeling, you have a fairly good idea what is in your house. If your house were to burn down and the insurance said, how much do we pay you for? You'd be able to say, well, I had 4 bedrooms, I had this or that, or I lived in this kind of house, and you would report accordingly. So the point here that is being made is, I suppose, to be able to get municipalities to account much more effectively on the asset register they have. I guess that is my reading of that particular point. Mr. Makakula, I don't know if you want to respond to that particular point, and then we can clear it out.
You have explained it better, Chairperson. I won't add anything.
That's the point.
That was the thinking.
That is the point.
But that brings me to the second part then, if I might.
Mr. Pakis, just hold on, just Honorable Wakeling, just hold on. I just want to finish. Mr. Pakis, is there anything you wanted to add on this? Because I do tend to Mr. Makakula's point that you can't be player and referee.
No, thanks, Chair. I think that point is quite clear. I think it was just to respond to the call that you had made for us to make inputs. But just for the record, Honorable Chair, I think you have captured the issues around the asset registers, and where they exist, they are incomplete, and not reliable in terms of the kind of information that they provide. Even when the claims are made for insurances that were maybe paid for, you'd find that, at the point where payouts are expected, issues emerge because of just how those asset registers aren't being followed through. So through the municipal infrastructure grant, honorable members, we have over the years allowed for municipalities to use a portion of that. We said not more than 5% for the purposes of ensuring that the asset registers are in place and they are reliable. Municipalities can point to their assets, but also are able to evaluate their assets. But the take-up has been quite poor in that regard as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Doc. I appreciate that. Honorable Wakelin, let me revert back to you. So with the point then being clarified in that manner, that is merely what we're trying to achieve here, because the sublining theme that has been coming through this MTBPS and has been a general comment as well. That's why, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm quoting the figure really off the top of my head, I think there's been a 5 billion rands increase in terms of the disaster relief fund or the contingency reserve. And really, I think in part, much of this has to do with some of this asset register bit. So if we can clarify the sentence to express that view, then that's fine, then we can proceed. But I do think when I look at, you are making the point 11.7.
Chair,
Yes,
if I may.
yes, yes, if you can.
If we there when it says an audit, so maybe just to say that an effective and efficient project management must be done on audit assessments, because the problem lies not so much the audit, but it's the effectiveness and efficient project management of these audits. And I know for a fact, out of my own experience, with, for instance, in Tshwane and Joburg, if you don't do a proper project management on these audits, that's just the results you get. So if we can just clarify that in that way. But there's a second part, Chair, which I think is more pertinent. Can I continue?
Let's just. I think it's about accuracy. So
Yes.
So it's the point there is less about project management, more about the accuracy of the asset register in order to be able to accurately account when there's a disaster. That is the point.
Yeah, it's fine.
So the accuracy of the audit must be done for especially in municipalities, to ensure infrastructure is accounted for, not maintained, is accounted for in the event of disasters. Furthermore, the disaster there, then the point is there. That's the point.
I think that's clear.
So, Honorable Wakelin, you can proceed then.
Yeah, but the second part is maybe further down on one of our recommendations. It's something that I raised in my speech. Given our current inclement weather changes all over our country, and we see what happened in Joburg now, we saw what happens in Cape Town and the likes in Durban. I have proposed that there should be, and I know somewhere in our report there's a reference to climate change. The matter that I'm looking for is an action plan around development of a proactive disaster mitigation strategy for all spheres of government. Because my sense tells me that as it stands, we are fixing as we go along, but there's no clear proactive mitigation strategy developed or in place yet. And that's for all three spheres of government. And that would assist us then when we do our budgeting. It will be aligned with the mitigation strategy for disasters in particular. What we have found, because my sense tells me that the adjustments that we've done now for all of that relates to disaster was all things after the effect. So I want to change that to say we need to have a proactive disaster mitigation strategy in place.
I think the point is made further down the report, Honorable Wakelin, but what I will also do is supplement that with a formalized letter to us for a tabling of a disaster management response, along with many of the second reporting that we need, because part of the dilemma is this also speaks to other insurance, the insurance of assets and all sorts of things like that, that we must assume climate change. We must assume we're going to have these disasters. We can't just be hit. So I fully endorse your point. I just think it can be captured in the report, but we do need a fuller supplementary report at some point. So let me, if you hold that powder so that we can deploy it when we get to the recommendations, if that's okay.
It's perfect. Thanks, Chair.
Honorable Denver, can you proceed to the bottom of that page? I think now we're on page 29, we get to page 30.
Chair, just a comment on page 30, if I may.
Yeah, Denver, can you move up to page 30? Yes, Honorable Wakelin.
11.10, just the last paragraph in 11.10, there's a reference made to say, however, the committee notes the concern raised by the Parliamentary Budget Office on this government's decision and would like to engage further with the Minister of Finance on all the concerns raised by the PBO. I think that we also need to concerns that were raised by the PBO as well as the FFC. And I think that is my concern around that.
That is fine. You
3%.
can include as well as the FFC. I don't think there's a problem with that. It's about dealing with the issue of inflation.
The 3% inflation rate, because
It's
both
on-
of them had specific views on 3% rate. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on the monetary policies. Fiso, that point is acceptable. Is there any point you'd like to make?
No, it's acceptable, Chairperson. We can just add as Denver is added. That will be fine.
Oswald. Then after page 30, we move to page 31.
Chair, just a question on 11.14. I've never heard, and maybe I haven't learned anything around the Education and Labour Relation Council. Can anybody educate us eventually on that? Who are they? What are they doing? I've never heard of them.
I think it was a submission made by Equal Education in terms of their own point. But Fiso, would you like to comment on that?
Not even that, Chairperson. It's also mentioned on when you look at the expenditure by function. So it's there on the issue on the education function. Yes.
It's fine, Chair. I'll do my own research. It's fine. Thanks, Chair.
It's there, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Let's proceed.
On the learning and culture function, yes.
Yes. Let's proceed then to page 32. Page 33.
Sorry, Chair.
Right, now we are here. Honorable Wakelin, yes?
I just want, sorry, I might have missed that part on 11.21, the last sentence where the committee has serious reservations about the allocation towards the G20 summit. Can you maybe just, I did miss one meeting when I was busy with my performance assessments. Was that raised in the public hearing, or where was this raised?
So if you look at the allocations that have been put in the adjustment appropriation, there were a number of funds that were shifted later on in the year. And then we received formal communication from the Minister of Finance indicating that, remember, when I asked the question about whether it was going to be 400 million rands, which was the initial appropriation that was done in February, we received a formal letter, which I will circulate to the committee, to say that the G20 expenditure had moved up to about, if I'm not mistaken, the cumulative amount was close to about 900 million, close to R1 billion.
Yeah, okay.
So that's where the issue has then, so we've been served with formal communication, both in the initial bit about what the initial cost was going to be, and the subsequent bit, which told us how much exactly it was at post. And I will circulate that respective letter to committee. That's where the matter comes.
Here where it comes from. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Bateman, you want to raise the points? Or your hand has gone down?
No, thanks, Chair. Sorry. Apologies if I missed this, and I realize we've actually gone past this page, but on 11.10 it says the committee notes the concerns raised by the PBO about the inflation target and we want to engage further with the Minister of Finance on all of the concerns raised by the PBO. I mean, is that the view of the committee?
I think the point was captured. It's on monetary policies, not just all the concerns that are raised by the PBO. It's on inflation targeting, and Honorable Wakelin had supplemented the point to say, and the points raised by the FFC. So I think that covers the broad spectrum of the questions that are raised around inflation targeting itself, and it requires further engagement. I think that's the only point to be made there.
Okay, so we're not criticizing the decision. We're just saying
no. It's monetary policy has its own consequences. And there are certain issues that we need to engage on. For example, countries that have adopted inflation targeting have had other consequences. It would be naive of us as a committee to say, the decision is made. Monetary policy today, your interest rates will be calculated against that particular posture. But the fact of the matter is that there are other consequential issues that are going to occur that we need to deal with, some of them positive. For example, we are starting to see the SARB decrease interest rates. It's part of the global wave. That's a positive thing. But there could be other negative issues that come in. There are certain departments that whose adjustment budgets for next year, if they are measured against inflation, may not meet the target. So these things require engagement, broader speaking. So I think that's the only point there. It's not. It really is to deal with. It's a significant strategic shift. I can't remember in democratic history. In my memory, I can't remember when last this target was adjusted. That's how significant this issue is.
It has never been adjusted since it was made, Chairperson. It's the first time.
Mr. Makakula, thank you. You see, there's the young people who must remind us, Guti, we agreed on this in when we adopted monetary policy. Thank you, Mr. Makakula. Honorable Bateman, is that covered there?
That's fine. I mean, I think you've highlighted the point. We're not.
This is not just about the PPO.
We're just there's a lot of space to engage further around it and discuss all the pros and cons and everything. Yeah.
All right. Honorable Wakeling, as your face is showing.
Chair, just a spelling mistake. I want to let's go back to page 33, 11.20. There's just one spelling mistake there. I want to just indicate to you. Oh no, I've missed it. So yes, 11.20, page 33. Right at the end, funding to bankroll those plans will see a massive rise. I mean, I assume that you said massive rise. So if you can just that spelling mistake.
Denver, will you? Yes. We'll see a massive rise. What did you want to change it to, Honorable Wakeling?
No, the one I received said massive. So obviously you changed it already. That's fine.
It has been corrected. Can we go to the page we were last on? We're dealing with recommendations there. And Honorable Wakeling, I recognize you with regards to the recommendation you wanted to make. Can we proceed there? Page 34, you can keep going. Honorable Wakeling, is there?
You mean the one recommendation I wanted to put forward? Okay. Chair, let me just go back to the one that I was looking for. Reference back to the mitigation strategy for to develop a proactive disaster mitigation strategy for all spheres of government. The wording I'm happy for Mr. Makagula to do, but I'll just post what I've got onto the chat group and you can work on that. But it's just basically moving away from reactive to proactive, dealing with the current weather patterns in our country.
Sorry, Honorable Bateman, I'm trying to look, I'm reading the report parallel to both these on screen and on my side. So what bullet point you wanted to supplement?
Oh, you mean which one specific? Okay. Let me go look at that thing. I don't think it's in here.
Okay, well, we'll pick it up right towards the end. So let's just go through the rest of these pages if there are any problems. Sure. Any member would like to raise anything on page 34?
Chairperson.
Honorable Talega Mazibugo.
Yeah, the report I read is on the small gadget, but there's somewhere where the Minister of Health and the Minister of Finance and Treasury has to provide a comprehensive report. Mr. Magagul, if you can go there, I think it's 11 point something, where the comprehensive report has to be provided.
Honorable Talega, we're on 12 now. I know you are reading on a small device. We're on page 34.
Okay, I wanted us to put time frame there, but it's fine.
Or you wanted us to put a time frame on when that it's about the PEPFAR funding, if I remember the point you are making.
Yeah, on when the report should be. Otherwise, we will never get that report.
12.6.
It's 12.6 then.
Yeah, comprehensive report, yes, and the government position paper to Parliament, yes. Yes, that's the one. If we could at least put by when. Otherwise, if there's no time frame, I don't think we will ever get the report. We need to monitor that. Thank you.
May I make a suggestion here to say that should be tabled in concurrent with the next budget cycle, because it will matter. The next financial year is upon us, and then also in the medium-term budget policy statement for 2026, 2027, because unless honorable members and colleagues, I think it is undeniable that a 4 billion rand shortfall is not $4 billion shortfall isn't necessarily going to be dealt with adequately by 794 million rand. That feels like the proverbial bucket in the genuine ocean of financial difficulty. So would a time frame of the budget in 2026 be a fair one? So 2026 in the budget cycle then?
Sounds fine, Chair.
Not really, Honorable Chairperson, because Honorable, sorry.
You must be honorable.
Okay.
I think, okay, let me recognize you, Honorable Makakula. I thought an honorable member was speaking. What did you want to say?
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson. I'm saying, generally, if you look at the last paragraph on our report, I think when we got down there on the conclusion, all the reports standard, we say the recommendations that we make here must be responded to by the executive within 60 days after the adoption of the report. So I just want to emphasize to Honorable Galega Mazibo that the executive must respond to this thing. It shouldn't be an issue of whether they want to respond or not. But of course, if they don't respond, then it is the duty of Parliament to through the office of the Speaker to ensure that these things are responded to. So that's why I'm saying let us not emphasize one recommendation over the other, but as we move with the standard procedure to say within 60 days, if you can see that conclusion on the second paragraph of 13, once we adopt the report, we give them 60 days to respond, all of them. And they respond to the recommendation. It's what we spoke about when we were dealing with our strategic plan. It should never be an option of whether somebody wants to respond or not. People must respond to Parliament if Parliament adopts a report.
Honorable Galega Mazibuko, does that response suffice in what you are asking?
Yeah, indeed, Chair. I'm okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Makakula.
Before we are now about to wrap up, I just wanted to cover that one last recommendation. Honorable Wakelin, I don't want to lose your point.
I'm just trying to look at the recommendation. It is not captured in any of the six.
So just make your point again.
Yeah, so I've posted it on the Zoom chat. Basically,
now you added another variable.
Huh?
You've added another variable because we are. Yes, Honorable Wakelin. I don't see it on which chat? The Zoom chat or the WhatsApp chat? Yeah.
No, the Zoom chat, sorry.
It's not, from where I sit here, I don't see it unless...
it doesn't want me to, but let me read it. What I'm asking is to say that the development of a proactive disaster mitigation strategy for all spheres of government are developed. And possibly we can put a time, because the concern I'm having is that we are dealing with disasters after the effect, and I want to move towards rather proactive budgeting planning, which will be reliant on a strategy before they can do the budget, if you know where I'm coming from.
I hear you. Mr. Makakula, the contingency reserve fund, I mean, it's set up for multiple contingencies. Is disaster not covered within that space? Because that's a fund we can talk to. I'm just asking a question. Magagula?
Yes, Chairperson, thanks. It is covered there, but again, if Honorable Waklin feels like strong that we need to deal with that, we need to locate it to say which minister must respond to that, because otherwise we will end up like recommending everything to National Treasury. I don't know whether that's what we want, but if we put that point, we need to locate it, whether we take it to COGTA or we take it to who, which minister must respond to that.
Of course, it would be a matter of the cooperative governance and traditional affairs. So perhaps maybe the point must be expressed in terms of the proper forecasting of disaster management plan as to be tabled by the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, and how funds allocated align with the contingency reserve fund. Would that be a fair point to make?
Chair, in association with province and national.
Wait. Wait.
Chair, it's fine if we can give him the job to do it, but it will be in association with province and national, because there's also national disaster departments as well as provincial disaster management, and the correlation between those units leaves much to be desired, and that's the problem that we are sitting with. That you find province have got their own disaster management team, national have their own disaster management team, and then government municipalities. So there needs to be a synchronization as well. But if you want to give COGTA the job, I'm not so certain. I think there is a National Department of Disaster.
Well, it is cooperative governance.
There is only the disaster management fund, but we don't have a National Department of Disaster.
Mr. Makagula, may I ask if you could wait before you speak so I recognize you? Otherwise, we can all speak.
Sorry, Chair.
As the spirit leads. I will recognize you in a moment. Honorable Mkhonto, is this on this particular point?
No, Chair. Please recognize me after you have exhausted this one.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Mkhonto Sfiso. Mr. Makagula. You see,
Honorable Chairperson, I'm saying we've got the disaster management. Chairperson.
Yes.
Well, I'm saying we don't necessarily have a department that is responsible for disaster. Safe to say, we've got the disaster management center, so it's not necessarily a department. So, but we don't have a department that is a department of disaster.
No,
that's
I
what I wanted
you.
to.
Okay,
but so the disaster management center is supposed to COGTA, so we have that.
Can I request that the recommendation be made to the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, obviously in consultation with National Treasury as it speaks to the Contingency Reserve Fund, about a proactive strategy to mitigate against climate risk? Full stop.
100%. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Mkhonto, you are recognized.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, I think we have to be specific when it comes to. I know is the other page. I've been trying to think and jot down some local in as far as sitters are concerned. Chair, we are complaining about the high rate of unemployment, specifically amongst the youth. And the sitters are responsible for skills development and to contribute in increasing employment rates in the country. But as a committee, we don't have specific duties that we want to see in as far as sitters are concerned. I feel we are not playing our oversight as effectively as expected when it comes to sitters. So I don't know, Chair, as to how can we put it for us to be able to zoom into what the sitters are doing as per their constitutional mandate, because they have to come to the party and make sure that there is the skills of the youth in specifically in small businesses, starting their small businesses and creating employment amongst themselves, and their skills being developed to achieve that. I think, Chair, we have to have something that deals with that. Thank you.
Honorable Mkhonto, if I reflect on this point accurately, is that we have asked for TARS to be able to look at CETA's agencies. I think let me make this first point, that creation of employment is a broad term in and of itself, right? So it pertains to, it has many multiple variables. It's difficult to create jobs without electricity. It's difficult to create jobs when you don't have businesses that can create those jobs. It's difficult to create jobs when the state is dysfunctional. So it's a combination. It's a combination of all of those variables. Now, if we accept that particular point, when it comes to the matter of CETAs, they are but one component of the efficiency of the state. And I think we've tasked, when the TAS report comes in to committee, I'm going to request that ultimately the CETAs account for that, because there are also agencies that sit within this space that heaven alone knows what they do. Yet they exist. You can have an agency for the film and something board and all sorts of things to create a job in the industry. They exist, but heaven alone knows what they exactly do. So, or what their meta contribution is. So what I've requested is that when we do the TARS exercise, that the CETAs be given particular emphasis so that we can then attend on a microscopic level on what each of them do, because between CETAs and agencies, you've got an employment grouping there of close to about 170,000 people. And I'm not sure whether we know exactly what they are doing. And I can't make that statement until I've seen the TARS report. And then on that basis, Honorable Mkhonto, I would argue that it would be the right premise for us to do the oversight. Could that work, Honorable Mkhonto? Or you want it to be separated from that?
No, Chair, I understand what you are saying, but in the recommendations here, can we put what you are presenting, Chair, in this report, so that we make sure that whilst we implement the recommendations that are in this report, we are able to implement even that. Thank you.
Okay. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it might be captured, because I've been reading these reports so often, it might be captured on one of the other reports. But Mr. Makakula, I see your hand is up. I recognize you, Honorable Wakelin, but I will revert back to you just now. Mr. Makakula?
Honorable Chairperson, it's captured on the appropriation, on the adjustment appropriation bills report. But secondly, there is an issue that I want to clarify here, Honorable Chair. On this point, that the red point here, where we are saying the Minister of Cooperative Governance, I just want to clarify, Chairperson, that COGTA can't, they don't have a say on the issue of the contingency reserve. It's the purview of the National Treasury. They can only bid for money like any other department, and then when the budget process starts. But that's why I'm saying, I don't want you, when you see the final report, and then it excludes the point about the contingency reserve. COGTA has got nothing to do with that. It's a National Treasury. Whether they set it at 1 billion or 5, it's their decision, wherever they make those decisions. But COGTA won't have a say in as far as the contingency reserve is concerned.
I think the point is in conjunction, and I think Honorable Wakelin has tabled it today in the chats, in consultation with National Treasury, that there be a proactive disaster management mitigation strategy. I think the point is well captured there. Denver, I don't know if you want to copy and include it there, and we can go from there. Honorable Wakelin, I'd recognized you.
Yeah, Chair, I just did an edit on that. I said that the Minister of COGTA and consultation with National Treasury, so not Treasurer, develop a proactive disaster mitigation strategy and budget for all spheres of government. So that point is highlighted. Chair, the point I wanted to raise is related to your previous conversation around TAS. In the appropriation report, we do reference the TAS very strongly, but in this report, it's not done. So I don't know if that would be a duplicate. If so, and just on your previous point, would you like to include some recommendation around TAS, or would we leave it for the appropriation because it's in there already? That's the other point I wanted to make earlier.
I think we'll leave it at the appropriations bit. I think it will be best captured there. If you don't mind, honourable members, I think it'll be captured there because it deals with the recommendations that go from there. In that light, Denver, will you move down with that point now been accepted? Can you move down to the conclusion? Yeah, that concludes this particular report, honourable members, with the inputs that members have made and all the submissions. May I ask, is there, given all of the issues, the matters that we've raised and the inclusion, is there a member who would like to move for the adoption of this report with all the amendments that have... Thank you, Honourable Wakelin. Is there a member who would like to second the adoption of the report?
Chair, I second the adoption of the report.
Thank you, Honourable Galaga Mazibuko. With that in mind, the report on the medium-term budget policy statement is thus duly adopted. Thank you very much, honourable members, for your inputs in this regard. May I ask that Denver, if you wouldn't mind, let we move a motion of desirability on the next bill that has to be considered, which is the Adjustment Appropriations Bill. Mashile, will you read it to the record so that we can then deliberate it on such?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good morning once again, everybody on the platform. Motion of Desirability Adjustment Appropriation Bill B27 of 2025. That in the opinion of the committee, the legislation is desirable to effect adjustments to the appropriation of money from the National Revenue Fund for the requirements of the state in respect of the 2025-26 financial year and to provide for matters incidental thereto. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mashile. The reason you also read this is because you have a very good voice for radio. But let me then, having taken this particular point, is there a member who will move for the adoption of the adoption of the motion of desirability? Honourable Wakelin, I saw your video is off.
Yeah, I'll move.
Thank you very much. Honourable Mkondo, I saw your hand up very quickly.
I second, Chair.
The motion of desirability being duly adopted, we will then proceed to the report on the Adjustment Appropriation Bill. Denver, may I ask that you flight the Adjustment Appropriation Bill and then we can proceed from there. Right, honourable members, in the same way, if you've got points to raise in the midst of the report, you can raise them accordingly. I think let us proceed on that score, starting with page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Page 8. Page 9. Page 10. Page 11. Page 12. Page 13. Page
Sorry, Chair.
14. Yeah, sorry,
Chair,
Honorable Wakeling, yes.
you go so fast. Can I just quickly comment on page? So
2.
I'm taking it back to page 11. Sorry, my apologies.
Out of order, Honorable Member.
Yeah, just a quick. You went so quick. I was actually looking for that too. And just a comment. So the FFC commented throughout all their presentations the matter of lack of project management and efficient and effective project management. And I raised the point before, and we said, okay, that's fine, but it is nowhere properly captured as a recommendation. If we can look at that, because the big issue, as we know, is project execution, and I spoke about that in a speech as well. The issue is not the planning, the issue is execution, and I would like us to emphasize that point very strongly at the end, if I may.
Let's when we get to the recommendations, if you can hold that point, we can support it. I think it is mentioned there, but we will adjust it accordingly. Can you hold it to that? It doesn't, because at this point in time we're dealing with the background, and I think the information is fairly consistent. That's so we move to page 14, Denver. Page 15. Page 16. Page 17. Right. Now, page 18. Page 19. Now we begin on page 20 with the recommendations. If I think Honorable Mkhonto, the point about SETAs and where they go to consolidate functional overlaps, etc., has been covered there. Once this report is put on the table, we will then proceed to do the oversight on that score. Is that, can you see that point there, Honorable Mkhonto?
Yes, Chair, I can see it.
Okay. Honorable Bateman, I see your hand is up. Can I see you are recognized?
Thanks very much, Chair. We don't mention anywhere here around the spending reviews. I'm not sure whether that's something we should be going on. I mean, I know we've raised it on many reports, and it is an ongoing thing. But I just wondered whether that's not something worth emphasizing. The other thing is this question of the total size of government, and if you look at that graph of what the total share of government spending is as a percentage of the economy, going back over sort of 20, 30 years, it's quite striking how much the government spending has grown as a proportion of the total economy. And obviously that is I wouldn't say obviously, but I think there's an argument that can be made, which I think is compelling, that has a slowing effect on economic growth. And there have been some submissions. I remember when I was serving on the Standing Committee of Finance, there was some submissions by outer organization undoing tax abuse that highlighted some of the research in that area. So that was the other thing. I wondered, do we need to ask for some independent view on that question to guide us as to the overall size of this budget? Is that actually part of our problem? And can we get some independent insights into it as a way of informing the budgeting process? Thanks, Chair.
So on your first point, Honorable Bateman, may I respond by saying government's approach to now spending reviews has been put on the new program. Well, it's not a new program, it's what they've loosely put under TARS, which is an ability to be able to assess, and so it covers a whole lot of other aspects. And I think we do make mention of TARS. We certainly did that in our initial report on the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill. And we've certainly, so these bills are all tabled together, if you like. It's just that they've been considered at separate times. So we did make that point. So I don't, so that's on the TARS issue. On the percentage of state expenditure relative to GDP growth, typically, now I know we may hold different views about the PBO, we may hold different views on the FFC, but they are the bodies that advise the committee on macroeconomic emphasis. So effectively, and we could, that is not a, if you like, it is not a debate for this report. It is a macroeconomic debate that needs to be ventilated with an institution that can give us benchmarking relative to other countries. We have debated the point before, and it varies country by country depending on its need. If you go to Scandinavian countries, this matter could eventually get past 50% of state expenditure relative to GDP. You were speaking to Germany, some of the developed economies, and let's say some of the developing economies, you take Turkey, the percentages are all different. And so I would argue, for example, some of the fastest growing economies happen to be in Africa on a low base, but state expenditure relative to GDP is relatively high on that score. So it's a macroeconomic conversation that I would argue that we need to formalize the request to have this discussion. I'm not suggesting we shouldn't have it. It is not necessarily for this particular report, but I do think as a macroeconomic conversation, it's one worth having at an appropriate time with the workshop, either with the PBO or the FFC or any other body you might recommend. But I do think it'll be worthwhile to debate it within a fuller context rather than narrowly on this particular bill itself, because as I say, countries are all in different phases of development, and I'm not suggesting it's a good or a bad thing. I think it's worth the debate. Honorable Wakelin, I recognize your hand.
Thank you, Chair. My previous point is well covered under 6.2, so you can ignore.
So we can?
We can ignore the issue of project management and efficiency. It's covered well under 6.2. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, that's fine. If you don't mind, honorable members, I'm then going to proceed, given the 2 points that have been dealt with, and I do want to argue, I appreciate a good discussion on these issues. Let's move then to page, I'm not sure, Denver, what we're on page now, 20. My December eyes have kicked in. Page 21. Honorable Wakelin, yes. May I recognize your point? Honorable Wakelin, you are recognized.
My apologies, Chair, it was on the previous point. I just blurred my hand.
Oh, is that a legacy hand? Okay. Post that, let's move to page 20. Oh, yes, page 22. Honorable members, we come to the end of this particular report. I don't see any other hands, and therefore would like to proceed to put before the committee about the adoption of this particular report on the Adjustment Appropriation Bill.
I adopt, Chair.
Sorry, Honorable Wakelin, you are not recognized, but your enthusiasm is nonetheless quite inviting. Honorable members, is there a member who would like to move for the adoption of the report?
Deputy Chair, I adopt.
Thank you, Honorable Wakelin, you are recognized. Is there a member who would like to second Honorable Wakelin's rather enthusiastic response and support for the adoption of the bill? Honorable Bateman, I see your hand, you are recognized.
I'll second.
Thank you, Honorable Baitlin. And honorable members, in that light, the report on the Adjustment Appropriation Bill is thus duly adopted. What will then happen after this is that Mr. Magagula will then tidy and clean up the report for all the new inputs that have been brought forward by members. It will then be ATC'd so that it can be considered at the meeting of Parliament at the start of the new year. With the speed and momentum that we have maintained, I want to move to the last bill to be considered by this particular committee. And in this light, may I ask Mashile Motaung if you can read the motion of desirability for the record.
Thanks, Chair, once again. Motion of desirability, Special Appropriation Bill, B22 of 2025. That in the opinion of the committee, the legislation is desirable to appropriate an additional amount for the requirements of Board of Health for the 2025-26 financial year to address the shortfall resulting from the withdrawal on international donor funding to the health sector and to provide for matters connected therewith. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Maubane. Is there a member on the platform who'd like to move for the adoption of the motion of desirability? Honorable Talega Mazibugo, I recognize your hand.
So sorry, Chair.
Just hold on, Mr. Magagula, again. Sorry, Honorable Talega Mazibugo, I think it's a procedural point. If you can hold on 1 second. Mr. Magagula, yes?
It's just one correction that I see now, but it's the special appropriation, not appropriations.
Special appropriation. Can we correct that before we adopt it, please?
Yes, that is fine, Chair, now.
Thank you very much. Honorable Talega Mazibugo, I now recognize you.
Thank you, Chair. I move for the adoption of the motion of desirability, special appropriation as corrected. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Talega Mazibugo. Is there a member who would like to second the adoption thereof, of the motion of desirability on the Special Appropriations Bill? I now recognize Honorable Sigede.
Chair, I second the motion.
Thank you very much. With that being seconded, can we then proceed? This is a fairly short report and a short bill to take in consideration. You will know that as honorable members, this was in response to the withdrawal of the PEPFAR funding and government's response in terms of how additional resources must be allocated to the Ministry of Health. In that light, we will go through a similar procedure page by page, and if members have got points to raise, you can certainly indicate so as we go through the report. Let us then begin with page 1. We move to page 2. we then proceed to page 3. We then go to page 4. Can we then proceed to page 5 of the report? Can we then go to page 6 of the report?
Chair,
Just
my
before
hand-
we proceed,
my hand
Honorable
is up.
Mkhonto, I apologize, Honorable Mkhonto. As I said, you are free to. You can proceed, Honorable Mkhonto.
Okay. Chair, it's just a typing error on under COSATU. There is a phrase that has been repeated before the cuts. I think it's the second paragraph under COSATU. There is a phrase that has been repeated there. Maybe it is corrected, I don't know. But to the report that was sent to us, we have before the cuts ×2. Thank you.
Denver, can you just check and correct that just so that we have it accurately before we adopt anything, please? Okay. We can then proceed to page 6. We can then move to page 7. Can we move to page 8? Honorable Mkhonto, you want to raise a point? Honorable Mkhonto? Okay.
No, Chair, it's a legacy. It's a legacy. Unmute.
Legacy.
Yeah.
No, it is in the true spirit of the EFF, that one. Honorable Waitlin, I recognize your hand.
Chair, thank you. Point number 4.2, there is a broad statement made on a recommendation around the NHI. I was wondering if that is on the correct report to do this, because this special appropriation is a very specific focus on the special appropriation for HIV/AIDS, and I want to get a sense from you. Why did we decide to put that in the NHI conversation in this report here?
So let me give context to this particular point. South Africa, and certainly in this principle of why this bill is tabled, is to uphold a degree and a principle of independent health funding, so that you don't have dependencies on PEPFAR, USAID, and multiple fora. That was a statement made both, I think, in the MTBPS and in the broader statement. But secondly, it was in essence a conversation when, as you know, as a committee, partly we were invited on the G20 Health Ministers Forum. Thirdly, we dealt with this matter when the Minister of Health came through. The point is not to endorse NHI. The point is to ask the question, if we're talking about universal health coverage, of which HIV testing, all of these matters form part of the healthcare economics, would it not be an imperative for us as a committee to then begin to think about this question? I'm not asking any member to endorse a particular policy position. This is not about the support or disputes regarding NHI. That's a separate matter. That NHI will be dealt with on another stage, and when the Minister of Health was there. We're dealing with appropriations, and it is important for us as a committee to not be found wanting when what is now this year 749 or whatever the special appropriation is. Next year, it will potentially need to balloon to 1 billion and 1 billion, et cetera, in the medium term to try and compensate for that. Now, you can do it by piecemeal or you can do it by policy. And I'm unclear what the policy is at this point. So the question that has been put forward here is that this is a limited scope for the appropriation, but healthcare funding needs to be appropriated for through the normal budgeting process. Otherwise, you are going to be special appropriation after special appropriation. If I make this point, this is the point I'd make, is that where health is as a function of appropriation with the removal of PEPFAR is in the same place where municipality is at. You can keep adjusting over and over, or you can think about what the policy is on this issue. And I think the point is merely just trying to express we need to think about what healthcare funding actually looks like over the medium term, given the significant hole that's been left by this point. So it's in response to 2 points, the one in the MTBPS, and secondly, as a question of universal health coverage, which is a principle that's adopted and agreed to by everybody and emanates from our constitution, might I ask the case, which is the progressive provision of health as a basic human right. So that's all that's the only point I'm trying to make. So Honorable Wakely.
Sure. Chair, it's fine. I hear where you're coming from. It's a question of getting your ducks in a row before we can sit with a number of special appropriations, and I'm with you on that score. But the similar conversation should be held with basic education as well. And then the adjustments that were done by the Minister unilaterally, these are the conversations that we need to have. But then the conversation, this is fine for this report, but I also want to just emphasize there are other parts where adjustments are made as and when required, which could be done better. And it is not just in health. That's the point I want to leave with you.
No, and I don't deny the fact that we need to think about the entire budgeting cycle, and that's a whole, but here we were dealing just with health because health was the topic here. But if there was a special appropriation for education infrastructure, I'm sure the argument could also be made there, or for argument's sake, as I've put forward to the Minister of Finance on policing. I mean, I certainly would hold the view that there needs to be a special appropriation on policing given the levels of crime that are occurring in the country. And the National Treasury have assured me that they've appropriated R1 billion over the last number of years on this issue, but that's not what we're dealing with here. We're dealing specifically with health. So if you are happy with the point, we'll proceed from there. That's the purpose why the point came into play. But I don't discount your point. Moving right along. Denver, you can move down so I can see which page we're on. We are now on page 8. Can we then proceed to page 9? With all the inputs then being put together, is there any other input that a member would like to put forward? I don't. With no hands being up at this particular point, Honorable Kalega Mazibuko, I recognize you.
Yes, thanks, Chair. As I adopt, there is a spelling of massive rise there on the last issue of PEPFAR. If the team can just correct that, it's massive. It's supposed to be massive rise, but otherwise, I do adopt the report. Thank you.
Denver, has that point been corrected?
It has now been corrected, Chairperson.
There are no additional inputs from members. May I then put the report in its entirety before members of the committee for adoption? That would be the adoption of this.
The mover, do we have the mover for the adoption?
Well, that's what I'm busy
Okay.
trying to move. I move that the report be adopted. So is there a member who would like to move for the adoption of the report on the special appropriations?
Chair, I'm happy to. Oh, sorry.
Chair, I move for the adoption of the report.
Thank you very much, Honorable Segede. Is there a member who would like to second the adoption of the report? Thank you very much. Honorable Bateman, I see your hand is up. Maybe let me allow you to move accordingly.
I'm seconding the adoption, Chair. Thank you.
And, the report is thus then duly adopted. Mashile, is there any other point you wanted to raise?
No, I'm okay, say. I just wanted to find out if there was a seconder, and then we are covered for that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I just want to make sure that with all the reports then being adopted, honorable members, I just want to raise, before we close this particular meeting in commemoration of December, what I'd like to make a number of announcements. The first one is this, is that effectively we have now been given confirmation from our colleagues. Remember when we were planning our trip internationally to go to Brazil as a country, we had difficulties confirming Brazil. The second alternative was India. I'm pleased to announce to the committee that our counterparts at the Indian High Commission have confirmed that they will be able to host this particular committee in that first week of February. The dates preliminary at this point are from the 2nd to the 6th of February, noting that it will be a week. The week thereafter is then the tabling of the State of the Nation address. So we will communicate the notice of activity as we go. So I wanted to confirm that for members to set those dates aside from the 2nd to the 6th of February. Mashile?
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson, for the announcement. I just wanted to make this remark. Whilst we acknowledge and accept the fact that we have had the confirmation from Brazil, as you said, we still have a slight challenge with the travel agent who doesn't respond on time, but we'll be dealing with that. We've been waiting for the response for the codes on the proposed oversight visit to Pretoria. We haven't had anything, but we'll keep members posted. And then Sis Nomfusi has indicated that the directive from the House Chairperson was that whatever we have must not exceed the 3 million. So we'll just check as to how much we have in our reserves, and then we'll keep members posted with regard to the developments. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mashile, for those. I appreciate just the clarification on that point. We will then also communicate on the basis of what happens to given the cost consideration. Remember, I proposed and still propose that we have a planned visit to the South African Revenue Service, the National Treasury, States SA, and the Presidency, so that we can begin. Those are input factors that go into our budgeting cycle, so those will be considered in due course also. Honourable Wakeling?
Yeah, sorry, Chair, I'm a bit confused now. Are you suggesting that we're going to do both oversight? I just want to be clarity, or are you not sure yet?
What I'm trying to do is we've got to consider the budgets for both and see how we do. I still maintain that those issues, SARS, NT, States SA, are still important, but benchmarking, especially in India, given the fact that India has demonstrated profound economic growth, are going. So we will do the full budgeting so that we go, and then we'll send out a notice of activity. I just wanted for members to lock into their diaries the dates of the 2nd to the 6th.
Got you, Chair. Thank you.
Then in that, a draft program will have already been put forward for members. We will circulate that, and then we will make the appropriate adjustments, because when you deal with House Chairperson, we have to submit all the respective programs for the start of the new term. concurrent with the dates that we've already been issued for when the tabling of the State of the Nation address, the debates that follow subsequent, the issue of the tabling of the budget for next year, etc. May I also highlight the fact that, honorable members, as all of you know, we will convene early in the year for a special hearing of Parliament to debate the respective bills that we have just adopted here today, given that the National Council of Provinces have done the work. So we will then consider all of these reports collectively at a session early in January. If I'm not mistaken, Mashile, is the date for that the 14th of January?
The 13th.
13th, I apologize. I just didn't want to send false information to members. In the light of that, honorable members, it is thus at 10:57. I want to wish all members here today a special Christmas. I hope you are safe with your families. And I hope that I want to thank you, especially just as this year has been. It's been long, it's been hard. But we are here now, having dispensed of our duties that we've needed to do as a committee. And I'm most grateful for each of your contributions. And certainly I'm grateful to the political parties. On the personal, I want to wish all the members who have had both the birth of new ones. I know Honorable Mwali has had a baby, and I know Honorable Mazibuko has had a grandchild. I wish you well, and also send my deep condolences again to members who have lost loved one. I know Honorable Sikete and some have. So I want to wish you all a peaceful break, Christmas. Please do not drink and drive, or at least separate the two activities if you are inclined to either one of them, drinking or driving, but that combination of both is detrimental. But if you are traveling to see family members, please do so safely. Honorable members, thank you very much. And to our professional staff, I don't want to note them all individually, but they've put an extraordinary amount of work to make sure that when other committees have gone on recess and constituency breaks, our committee researchers, secretariat, content advice, the logistics, all of that have kept working until to this date and will resume early in the start of the year. I cannot thank them enough. And as part of the management committee, I want to especially give my words of gratitude. Beyond that, honorable members, it is now 11 o'clock. Please enjoy your time with your family. God bless you. The meeting is thus adjourned.
Thanks very much.
God bless you too. God bless you too, Chair, and your family.
Same to you and
Thank
family,
you.
Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank
Same
you
to
very
you and
much.
family.
Thank
Be
you,
blessed,
Chair.
Chair.
Happy New Year.
Everyone.
Yes.
Thank you.
All of your hard work.
Recording stopped.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Bateman.